Wait, Schopenhauer said, what about women? Have you ever stumbled across a quote so shocking, so unapologetically blunt, that you had to stop and ask, did he really say that? Well, if you're reading Arthur Schopenhauer, the answer is probably yes. He was a man who didn't soften his words, a philosopher who wasn't interested in sounding nice. In fact, when it came to the topic of women, Schopenhauer didn't just cross the line, he erased it entirely. But before you dismiss him as just another grumpy old thinker with a misogynistic pen, pause for a moment. Because beneath the harsh surface of his words lies something far more profound. Hidden in his infamous essay on women is not just outdated prejudice, but a cryptic warning about desire, illusion, suffering, and the forces that secretly control your life. Yes, your life. If you stay with me through this video, you'll not only understand what Schopenhauer really thought about women, you'll uncover a deeper truth about yourself. This isn't just philosophy for the classroom. This is philosophy that cuts into the very heart of human experience. Let's begin. 1. Who was Schopenhauer really? Before we get to what Schopenhauer said, we need to understand who he was. Arthur Schopenhauer was born in 1788 in Germany and spent most of his life in conflict, not with war, but with the world itself. He believed life was not a gift, but a curse, not a joyful experience, but a painful burden we're all forced to carry. Unlike philosophers who sought meaning in reason, God, or human progress, Schopenhauer believed in something much darker, the will. According to him, everything that lives is driven by this irrational, unconscious force. The will doesn't think, it doesn't care, it just wants. It's the force behind your hunger, your cravings, your ambition, your fear, and it never stops. This worldview sets the stage for everything else. If life is ruled by a blind, unthinking force, then everything we love, art, love, family, sex, is just a trick played by the will. In this light, Schopenhauer didn't just philosophize. He tried to expose the machinery of existence itself. 2. The essay that sparked outrage, On Women. Now let's talk about the essay that lit the fire, On Women, written when Schopenhauer was around 40. This short text has been one of his most criticized pieces. In it, he writes that women are childlike, short-sighted, and more suited to obedience than leadership. He claimed that women lacked rationality, were more concerned with appearances, and ultimately existed for reproduction. On the surface, these words are undeniably offensive, even dangerous. But if we look deeper, Schopenhauer isn't just throwing insults. He's revealing what he sees as the biological programming that drives both women and men. To him, women are not villains. They're instruments of nature. The will uses them to draw men into the trap of reproduction. The essay isn't just misogyny, it's fatalism. Schopenhauer believed that love, romance, and even beauty itself were just illusions that nature uses to fool us into reproducing. Women, in this sense, are not evil. They're symbols, manifestations of the will's irresistible, inescapable power. 3. The real enemy, desire itself. Here's where it gets interesting. Schopenhauer wasn't a woman hater, he was a desire hater. In his mind, desire is the root of all suffering. The moment we want something, we become slaves to it. And sexual desire, that's the strongest of all. It's the will in its rawest form, dragging us toward lust, romance, even obsession. When Schopenhauer writes about women, He's not just being critical, he's warning us. He's saying, beware of what attracts you. Because that attraction isn't freedom. It's a trap. You're not falling in love. You're being pulled into a biological illusion designed to keep the cycle of life and suffering going. So when a man becomes obsessed with a woman, idealizes her, chases her, suffers for her, Schopenhauer would say, you're not in love. You're being manipulated by the will. The enemy isn't her. The enemy is within you, your own desire. 4. Women as nature's tool. Schopenhauer saw women not as individuals with personal freedom, but as extensions of nature's strategy. He believed women were biologically programmed to prioritize offspring, security, and physical attraction, all traits necessary for survival. From his lens, even flirtation, modesty, or seduction were unconscious tools of evolution. But this perspective doesn't apply only to women. Schopenhauer believed all humans are victims of these invisible strings. Men pursue beauty without knowing why. Women seek protection and power without consciously intending to. Everything we think of as romantic is, in his view, just a mechanism to pass on genes. This is where his philosophy becomes hauntingly modern. Long before psychology or evolutionary biology, Schopenhauer was outlining theories of unconscious drives and evolutionary pressure. In a twisted way, he was ahead of his time, pointing out that we aren't as free as we think. 5. Why Schopenhauer never married. Here's something curious. Schopenhauer never married. He had relationships, but he deliberately chose a life without long-term romantic attachment. Why? Because he believed it was a form of slavery, not to a woman, but to nature. For Schopenhauer, marriage was not a sacred union but a trap, a system designed to chain you to responsibility, distraction, and, worst of all, desire. He saw the family as a biological machine, not a spiritual bond, and he wanted nothing to do with it. This choice wasn't out of bitterness, it was philosophical. Schopenhauer believed that to pursue wisdom, one had to rise above the instincts that ruled most people's lives. That included sex, money, and even love. His path was solitude, reflection, and detachment from the will's commands. 6. A mirror for men, not just a critique of women. Most people read on women and stop at the offense. But there's a deeper interpretation. What if Schopenhauer wasn't just criticizing women, but holding up a mirror to men, exposing their weakness for beauty, their helplessness before lust, their blindness when in love? According to Schopenhauer, men are the true fools because they believe in the illusion. They chase women, write poems for them, go to war for them, not realizing they are dancing to a tune played by the will, and the will does not care who suffers, as long as the cycle of life continues. This is powerful. It forces us to ask, how much of our behavior is truly ours? How much of what we call love is just programming? And can we ever break free? 7. What does it mean to be free from desire? So what's the alternative? If Schopenhauer thought desire was the enemy, how did he suggest we live? The answer, renunciation. True peace, he believed, came from turning away from the world, not out of hatred, but out of wisdom. He admired monks, mystics, and ascetics, those who chose stillness over pleasure, silence over noise, reflection over passion, because they, in his eyes, had escaped the will. They had stopped playing the game. This is where Schopenhauer aligns with Eastern philosophy, especially Buddhism. Like the Buddha, he taught that suffering ends when desire ends. To be free isn't to get what you want, it's to stop wanting. 8. The message Schopenhauer left for you. Now that we've walked through Schopenhauer's worldview, you might be asking, what does this have to do with me? Why should the bitter writings of a 19th century philosopher matter in the modern world of dating, relationships, and self-discovery? Well, here's the truth. Whether you realize it or not, Schopenhauer's message was aimed directly at you. Not to shame you, not to scold you, but to wake you up. His words were like a slap across the face from someone trying to pull you out of a dream. Because in his eyes, most of us live in illusions, especially when it comes to love. You see, Schopenhauer believed we spend most of our lives chasing what we think will make us happy. A beautiful partner, the perfect relationship, the emotional high of romance. But he argued that these things aren't ends in themselves. They're bait. Nature, or what he called the will, lures us with these desires not for our fulfillment, but to keep the species going. When you fall in love, you're not just pursuing joy, you're unknowingly carrying out nature's orders. That's why relationships often lead to disappointment, frustration, and heartbreak. We think we're seeking love, but we're actually being pulled by something deeper and less noble. The will to reproduce, to possess, to escape loneliness. So what's the message? It's not that love is fake or that women are the enemy, far from it. Schopenhauer's message is that unless you become aware of the forces behind your desires, you will always be a slave to them. This isn't just about sex or romance. It's about your career ambitions, your cravings, your fears, everything you pursue without questioning why. He's asking you to slow down, to examine your motivations, and to realize that peace doesn't come from having what you want. It comes from understanding what's driving the wanting in the first place. And when you see through the illusion, when you stop mistaking desire for destiny, you take your first step toward real freedom. Truth hurts, but it liberates. Arthur Schopenhauer may never trend on social media. His views won't make it into a TED Talk. But if you're someone who wants to think deeper, who's tired of the lies we're sold about love, happiness, and freedom, then this message was meant for you. If this video made you pause, made you reflect, then subscribe and stay with me. This channel isn't about fluff. It's about truth, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Thanks for watching. And remember, you can't escape the will until you see it clearly.